The accident that changed everything. The night was heavy with smoke and fire. The battlefield was not quiet, not for a single second. Explosions shook the ground like angry thunder, and pieces of burning metal rained down from the sky. Soldiers shouted, ships screamed through the air, and the earth itself seemed to tremble under the weight of war. Among this chaos was a human soldier named Daniel. He had no special rank, no important name. He was just one man trying to survive the night. His armor was scratched, his body covered in dust, and his lungs burned as he tried to breathe through the smoke. His heart pounded in his chest as he ran, searching for cover among the ruins of broken walls and shattered machines. Then, something strange happened. From above, a transport ship spun out of control, its engines bursting into flames. It tore through the clouds, screaming as it fell, crashing into the earth with a deafening roar. The ground shook so hard that Daniel fell to his knees. The fire from the wreck lit up the night, turning the battlefield into a sea of orange light. Daniel raised his head and froze. Out of the burning wreckage, something was falling. Not metal, not debris. Something alive. Before he could think, his arms moved on their own. He leapt forward, and in that instant the figure came crashing into him. The weight hit him so hard he stumbled back, almost falling, but he held on. His breath caught in his throat as he looked down at what had landed in his arms. It was a woman. No, she was not human. Her skin glowed faintly in the firelight, a pale silver with strange patterns that shimmered like living light. Her hair, long and red like fire itself, spilled across his chest as she lay unconscious in his hold. Her ears were long and sharp, unlike anything he had ever seen. Around her neck was a piece of jewelry, golden and shining, shaped like a crown. Daniel's first thought was simple and terrifying. She is important. Before he could move, before he could even speak, voices broke through the smoke. Alien soldiers, their shapes tall and armored, were pushing through the wreck. Their language was harsh, full of growls and commands, but Daniel caught one word that made his stomach twist. Princess. They were searching for her. Daniel's arms tightened around her body. He could feel the heat of her skin, the faint rhythm of her breath. She was alive but weak. He looked around. He could not fight them. He had no backup. His weapon was nearly out of charge. Still, something inside him refused to let go. The alien shouted again. One of them pointed in his direction. The firelight gave him away. Daniel's instinct screamed, "Run!" He forced his legs to move, clutching the unconscious alien against him. He ran through the ruins, his boots pounding against the broken ground. Shouts followed him, heavy footsteps chasing close behind. Blaster fire cracked through the air, beams of light striking the walls around him, exploding in sparks and dust. Daniel gritted his teeth and kept moving. The princess stirred faintly in his arms, a soft sound escaping her lips. For a moment her eyes opened, glowing amber, filled with pain and fear. She looked at him, her lips trembling as she whispered in broken human words. "They kill us!" Her voice was weak, almost lost in the noise, but the meaning was clear. Daniel's chest tightened. He had not chosen this. He had not planned this. But now her life, and maybe his own, was in his hands. He ducked into the shadows of a ruined tower, pressing his back to the cold stone as enemy soldiers passed close. His breath came in sharp gasps, and the princess lay still in his arms, her head resting against his shoulder. The sounds of pursuit grew louder. The enemy would not stop until they had her. For a brief moment, he wondered why fate had chosen him. Of all people, why had she fallen into his arms? He was no hero, no commander, just a human trying to live through another battle. And yet here he was, holding a life that could change everything. The ground shook again as another explosion ripped through the sky. Flames lit up the alien soldiers as they spread out, scanning the ruins. Daniel knew he could not hide for long. He had a choice: abandon her and live, or carry her and risk everything. His eyes dropped to her face. Even in the dirt and blood, there was something unearthly about her beauty. She looked fragile, but he remembered the word he had heard. Princess. She was not only important. She was the kind of person wars were started for. He tightened his grip. The choice was already made. Daniel whispered under his breath, though she could not hear him. "I do not know who you are, but I will not let them take you." He took a deep breath, shifted her weight in his arms, and prepared to run again. The soldiers were closing in, their shadows stretching long through the smoke. His heart pounded harder than ever before. In that moment, he realized something. His life was no longer his own. The accident that brought her into his arms had changed everything. The escape through shadows. Daniel pressed his back against the cracked stone wall, holding his breath as shadows moved across the burning ruins. The alien soldiers were close, too close. Their strange armor clinked with every step, and their glowing weapons cut through the smoke like blades of light. He could hear them speaking in their own tongue, rough words that echoed like growls in the night. The alien princess stirred faintly in his arms. Her head rested against his chest, her glowing patterns dim but still alive. She was weak, but her weight reminded him with every step that he could not stop. He could not drop her. Daniel peeked around the corner. 5 soldiers were scanning the wreck, their helmets glowing with red sensors. They were hunting her like predators chasing prey. He could almost feel their eyes cutting through the shadows, searching, calculating. He took a shaky breath. His legs trembled, but he forced them to move. One step at a time, silent as he could, he carried her deeper into the ruins. The ground was covered in ash and broken glass, crunching under his boots no matter how careful he tried to be. Every sound felt like a scream. A sudden voice boomed through the smoke, one of the aliens barking an order. Daniel's heart jumped. They were spreading out, closing the trap. He had to move faster. He slipped into a narrow passage between 2 collapsed walls, his back scraping the stone as he squeezed through. The princess made a soft noise, a weak breath of pain, and Daniel froze, pressing her close, praying the sound would not be heard. A beam of light swept past, cutting across the stones just inches from his feet. He held still, his body stiff as stone, his breath trapped in his chest. The soldier's light lingered, then moved on. Daniel exhaled slowly and kept moving. The deeper he went, the darker it became. The fires behind him faded and the ruins grew colder, quieter. But the silence was not safe. The air here was thick with mist, and every shadow felt alive. The princess shivered in his arms, her skin colder now. He adjusted his grip, whispering without thinking, "Stay with me. Just stay with me." Her eyes opened for a brief second, glowing faintly amber. She looked at him as if she was trying to understand his face. Her lips parted, and in a broken, trembling voice she spoke again. Not stop, they want death." Her words sent a chill through him. He could see the fear in her, but also the warning. Whoever these soldiers were, they would never give up. They would not rest until she was taken or killed. Daniel moved faster. His mind raced. He had to find shelter, somewhere safe, somewhere hidden. But in the ruins of war there was no safety, only shadows and the sound of footsteps hunting them. Suddenly a sharp crack echoed behind him. Daniel turned just in time to see a blast of light hit the wall where he had been seconds before. The stone exploded, dust and sparks filling the air. The aliens had seen him. He ran. His boots pounded against the broken ground as he darted through the ruins. The princess held tight against him. Blaster fire lit up the night, beams flying past him, striking walls, tearing apart metal. Shouts followed, angry and close. Daniel's lungs burned, but he did not stop. He ducked under fallen beams, jumped over rubble, his mind screaming at him to keep moving. The princess clung weakly to him now, her arms barely lifting, but she did not let go. He slid into another shadowed alley, pressing his back to the cold wall, gasping for breath. His chest rose and fell fast, his heart beating like a drum. He looked down at her face. She was pale, her markings dim. He knew she could not survive if this chase continued too long. But then he noticed something. The jewelry around her neck, golden and strange, was glowing faintly now, like a beacon. A soft pulse of light, almost like a heartbeat. His stomach sank. It was a signal. "They are tracking you," he whispered, realization striking him hard. As if answering his fear, a roar of alien voices rose in the distance. More soldiers were coming. Dozens, maybe more. Daniel pressed his forehead against the cold wall for a brief second. He had to make a choice. He could leave her here, end the chase, and maybe live. Or he could carry her, fight through an army, and almost certainly die. But when he looked at her again, he could not let go. She was not just a stranger. She was a person, scared, hunted, and powerless in his arms. Something in her eyes, even weak and fading, told him she had trusted him in that one brief moment. He lifted her higher, shifting her weight against his chest. "No," he muttered under his breath. "I will not let them take you." A plan formed quickly in his mind. The old tunnels, he remembered passing them earlier, half collapsed under the city ruins. If he could reach them, maybe he could lose the soldiers in the maze of darkness. With no time left, Daniel ran again. His legs screamed in pain, his lungs begged for air, but he pushed on. Blaster fire followed him, shouts echoing through the ruins. He reached the broken entrance to the tunnels just as a beam of light struck the ground beside him, throwing up sparks. He ducked inside, sliding down the rubble, the princess held close. Darkness swallowed them both. Behind him, the soldiers roared in anger, their lights sweeping past the tunnel entrance. They would not give up. But inside the shadows, Daniel kept moving, step after step, deeper into the dark, the princess's faint breath warm against his chest. The hunt was not over. It had only just begun. Secrets of the princess. The tunnels were silent except for Daniel's heavy breathing and the distant drip of water echoing through the dark. His legs ached and every breath felt like fire in his chest, but he kept moving. The alien princess lay weak in his arms, her head against his shoulder, her body trembling with every step. The deeper he went, the colder it became. The smell of damp stone and rust filled the air. Light was gone now, replaced only by shadows so thick that Daniel could barely see his own hands. But in the darkness, one thing guided him: the faint glow of the patterns on the princess's skin. Her markings pulsed gently like a heartbeat, casting small waves of golden light across the stone walls. It was strange, almost beautiful, but Daniel felt uneasy. Light in this darkness could betray them. If the soldiers followed, that glow might lead them straight to her. He stopped near a broken section of wall, lowering her carefully to the ground. She let out a soft breath, her body limp as if the strength had left her completely. Daniel knelt beside her, brushing dust from her face with his hand. "You need rest," he whispered. Her amber eyes opened slowly, glowing in the dark. For a moment she studied him as if trying to read his soul. Then her lips parted. Her voice was soft, broken, but clearer than before. "You, human," Daniel nodded. "Yes, my name is Daniel." She closed her eyes for a moment, whispering as if the words were too heavy. "Daniel, protector." The word struck him strangely. Protector. He had not chosen this role. He had not asked for it, but hearing her call him that made his chest tighten. Daniel reached into the pouch on his belt and pulled out a small water pack. He lifted it to her lips. She drank weakly, her hands shaking as they touched his. Her skin was colder than before, like fading embers. When she finished, she leaned back against the wall, her eyes half open. For a while, there was only silence between them. Then she spoke again, her words slow, each one heavy with meaning. Amara," Daniel repeated it softly. "Amara, that is your name?" She gave the faintest nod. "Princess of Arvelian." Bloodline, Daniel's heart skipped. He had guessed she was important, but hearing it confirmed felt unreal. A princess, royalty, resting in his arms, hunted like prey. He leaned closer. "Why are they chasing you? Why do they want you dead?" Her eyes shimmered with pain, but also something deeper, sorrow. She took a shaky breath. "My people follow law, old law, cruel law. I refused," Daniel frowned. "What kind of law?" She hesitated, her lips trembling, her gaze fixed on the ground. "Bloodline must marry. Warlord, to keep peace. But warlord is tyrant. He kills. He destroys," I said no. "They call me traitor." Her words hit him like a blade. She was not only running from soldiers, she was running from her own people, from a future chained to a monster. Daniel sat back, trying to take it all in. He had grown up believing aliens were enemies, threats to humanity's survival. But looking at her now, pale and trembling in the dark, he saw something else. She was not an enemy. She was a prisoner of her own fate. Her eyes met his again, glowing faintly. "They will not stop. If they cannot take me alive, they will kill. They cannot let me live free." Her words sank into him like stone. He realized what it meant. By saving her, he had tied his life to hers. As long as she lived, the soldiers would hunt them both. Silence filled the tunnel again. Daniel leaned against the wall, his mind racing. He should have felt regret, maybe even fear. But instead he felt something else, a strange determination burning inside him. Finally he spoke. "Then I will keep you free. As long as I breathe, I will not let them take you." Her lips parted, a faint smile touching them for the first time. It was small, fragile, but real. Human, strange. "You risk life. For me." Daniel gave a tired laugh. "Maybe I am strange. Or maybe it is just the right thing to do. For a while they rested in silence, the darkness pressing around them. Then suddenly a sharp sound echoed down the tunnel. A metal clang followed by voices. Daniel's blood ran cold. The soldiers had found the entrance. He pulled himself to his feet, lifting Amara into his arms again. She clung to him weakly, her breath hot against his neck. "They are close," she whispered. Daniel nodded grimly. "Then we keep moving." The tunnels twisted like a maze, broken paths leading in all directions. Daniel moved quickly, choosing the narrowest paths, the darkest corners. But the voices grew louder, echoing closer. The glow from Amara's skin was like a lantern guiding their enemies. At one point, Daniel turned a corner and froze. Ahead, a figure stood in the shadows, tall, armored, with glowing eyes. A soldier. The alien raised its weapon, the light humming. Daniel's heart nearly stopped. There was no time to hide, no time to run. He turned his body, shielding Amara with his own. The soldier stepped forward. But then something strange happened. The glow from Amara's jewelry flared brighter, casting golden light across the tunnel. The soldier hesitated, lowering its weapon slightly. Amara's weak voice broke the silence. Some still loyal. Daniel's eyes widened. Not all of them wanted her dead. Some still followed her. But who could be trusted? The soldier spoke in a deep, rumbling voice, words Daniel did not understand. Amara responded weakly, her voice shaking but firm. For a moment, the soldier seemed torn, between orders and loyalty. Then heavy footsteps echoed behind them. More soldiers were coming. The lone soldier glanced over his shoulder, then looked back at Daniel and Amara. Slowly, he stepped aside, lowering his weapon, and pointed down a different tunnel. Amara whispered to Daniel. "Lets us go." Daniel wasted no time. He nodded once, clutching her tighter, and ran in the direction the soldier had shown. Behind them, the sound of pursuit grew louder, but for a moment they had a chance. As they disappeared into the shadows, Daniel realized something. This was no longer about survival. It was about something far greater. The secrets of the princess were not just her own. They were secrets that could change the fate of an entire people, and now his fate as well. The betrayal and the choice. The tunnels stretched on like a maze without end. Daniel's legs burned with every step, but he refused to stop. The princess Amara lay against his chest, her eyes half closed, her glowing patterns flickering weakly. She was fading, and he knew it. The soldier who had let them pass was far behind now, swallowed by the darkness. Daniel could not forget the look in that alien's eyes, torn between duty and loyalty. It meant one thing. The soldiers chasing them were not all the same. Some hated Amara, some obeyed orders, and some still remembered her as their rightful princess. But who could he trust? His boots splashed through shallow water, the sound echoing down the tunnels. Every noise seemed too loud. He knew the soldiers were still following. He could hear faint footsteps, metallic and steady, drawing closer with every turn. At last, the tunnels opened into a wider chamber. Broken pipes dripped from the ceiling and rusted beams stuck out of the walls. In the center, faint light poured down from a crack above, giving the space a ghostly glow. Daniel set Amara gently on a slab of stone, crouching beside her. "We need a plan," he muttered, more to himself than her. His weapon was nearly drained, his strength almost gone. Running forever was not possible. Amara's hand reached weakly for his arm. "You should leave me," she whispered. Her amber eyes were heavy with sadness. "They want me." "Not you, run. Live." Daniel shook his head sharply. "No, that is not happening." His voice was firm, almost angry. "I will not leave you." "Not now." She looked at him with something like wonder. No one had ever spoken to her like that. She'd been called traitor, disgrace, burden, but never had someone said they would stay no matter the cost. Before Daniel could say more, footsteps echoed at the edge of the chamber. He turned quickly, raising his weapon. Out of the shadows stepped a tall alien figure, not armored like the others, but cloaked in dark fabric. The glow from above lit his face enough for Daniel to see sharp features, eyes filled with recognition as they fell on Amara. She gasped. "Kieran." Daniel's grip on his weapon tightened. "You know him?" Amara's lips trembled. "My guard? Once trusted." The alien lowered his hood, his expression torn between relief and sorrow. He stepped closer, his voice low. "Princess, I thought you were lost." Daniel did not lower his weapon. Something about the man felt wrong. His steps were too careful, his gaze too sharp, like a hunter circling prey. Amara's voice was weak but hopeful. "Kieran, help us, please." Kieran's eyes flicked to Daniel, then back to her. For a long moment, silence filled the chamber. Then he sighed. "I swore to protect you once, but times have changed. You should not have run." The words struck like ice. Amara's eyes widened in horror. Daniel's stomach dropped. Kieran's hand moved, pulling a blade from his cloak. It shimmered with blue energy. His voice was cold now. "Forgive me, princess. If I return you alive, they will kill me. But if I bring them your body, they will reward me." Amara let out a broken cry, her weak hands reaching out as if to stop him. Daniel stepped forward, placing himself between her and the traitor, weapon raised. "You will not touch her," Daniel growled. Kieran sneered. "You are human. You do not understand our law. You cannot stop what must be done." The chamber filled with silence, broken only by the dripping of water. Then in one swift move, Kieran lunged. His blade clashed with Daniel's weapon, sparks lighting the darkness. The sound echoed like thunder. Daniel gritted his teeth, blocking strike after strike. His arms burned, his strength fading, but he refused to step aside. Behind him, he could hear Amara's broken whispers, begging him to stop, begging Kieran to remember his oath. But Kieran's eyes were filled with greed and fear. He fought harder, forcing Daniel back until Daniel's heel struck the edge of the stone platform. One misstep and he would fall. Then, just as Kieran raised his blade for the final strike, Amara's voice rang out louder than before. "Enough!" Her body glowed suddenly, the patterns on her skin blazing with golden light. The entire chamber lit up like a star. Kieran froze, his blade trembling in his hand. His eyes widened in terror. Daniel took the chance. With a desperate cry, he drove his shoulder into Kieran, slamming him against the wall. The alien dropped his blade, the weapon clattering to the floor. But Kieran was not finished. With one last effort, he grabbed Daniel's arm, pulling him close, whispering with venom. "She will destroy you. She is cursed. Protect her, and you will die." Daniel ripped free and struck him hard across the face. Kieran collapsed to the ground, unconscious. The light from Amara's skin slowly faded, leaving the chamber dim once more. She slumped back, her body shaking, her energy spent. Daniel picked up the strange blade, sliding it into his belt. Then he turned back to her, kneeling beside her. "You were right," he said softly. "He betrayed you." Tears filled her eyes, shimmering in the faint light. "Once he swore to die for me. Now he would kill me. My world is broken, Daniel. There is no one left to trust." Daniel shook his head firmly. "You can trust me." Her eyes searched his face, and for the first time she believed it fully. She reached out, her weak hand resting against his chest. "Then, you are all I have." Before Daniel could answer, the sound of heavy boots filled the tunnel. The soldiers were near. Too near. Daniel stood, lifting Amara into his arms once more. His jaw tightened, his heart pounding. He had made his choice long ago. Betrayal or death, soldiers or shadows, it did not matter. He would carry her until his legs gave out, because in this ruined, broken world she had no one else. And he would rather die than fail her. The stand that made history, the tunnel shook with the sound of marching boots. The soldiers were no longer searching quietly. They knew where their prey was. Their voices roared through the stone halls, echoing like thunder, growing closer with every heartbeat. Daniel carried Amara in his arms, her head resting weakly against his shoulder. Her skin glowed faintly, the golden light flickering like a dying flame. She was fading fast. Every step he took felt heavier, every breath harder, but he would not stop. The chamber behind them was silent now, the body of Kieran lying in the shadows. Betrayal still stung Amara's heart, but there was no time to grieve. Survival was all that mattered. Daniel reached another split in the tunnels. One path led deeper into darkness, the other toward faint light above, a way out. But before he could choose, a blast of energy exploded near his feet, throwing him back against the wall. He shielded Amara with his body as dust and sparks filled the air. From the smoke, armored figures stepped forward. Soldiers, at least a dozen. Their weapons hummed, glowing with deadly light. Behind them came a taller figure, cloaked in black armor with a blade at his side, the commander. His voice was sharp, cold, echoing in the chamber. "Human, you carry what is not yours. Hand her over. Die quickly and your body will be left whole." Daniel lowered Amara to the ground gently. Then he stood, placing himself between her and the soldiers. His weapon was nearly empty, his strength almost gone, but his eyes burned with fire. "No," he said firmly. "You will not take her." The soldiers laughed, their metallic voices full of mockery. The commander tilted his head, amused. "You are one man, one weak human. Do you think you can fight us all?" Daniel's chest rose and fell with heavy breaths. He knew the truth. He could not win. But winning was not the point. Standing was. He glanced back at Amara. Her eyes were open, watching him with fear and sorrow. For a moment, time seemed to freeze. Daniel saw the truth in her gaze. She had lost everything, her people, her guards, her family. And yet somehow fate had placed her in his arms. He turned back to the soldiers, gripping his weapon tighter. "I am human. We do not surrender." The words echoed through the chamber like a strike of lightning. The soldiers moved as one, raising their weapons. Blinding light filled the tunnels as they fired. Daniel rolled to the side, blasting back with what little power his weapon had left. 2 soldiers fell, their armor smoking, but more pressed forward. Daniel fought like a man possessed. He struck with his fists, kicked with his boots, used broken stones as weapons. Every movement was desperate, raw, but full of fury. He blocked a strike with his arm, pain shooting through his bones, and countered with a headbutt that dropped another soldier. He was bleeding now. His armor cracked, but he refused to fall. Behind him, Amara whispered weakly, her hands glowing faintly. The golden light spread across the floor, brighter and brighter. The commander stepped forward, drawing his blade. Sparks of blue energy lit the chamber as he swung. Daniel barely raised the stolen alien blade in time, the clash sending shockwaves through the walls. The commander was stronger, faster, but Daniel's rage gave him strength. "You fight for nothing," the commander growled, pressing him back. "She is doomed. Her people want her dead." Daniel's voice was raw, filled with defiance. "Then I will fight the whole galaxy." With a roar, he pushed forward, slamming his shoulder into the commander. The 2 crashed to the ground, their blades scraping sparks against the stone. Daniel struck again and again, refusing to let go. Behind him, Amara's glow grew brighter, filling the chamber with golden fire. Her voice rose, trembling but strong. "Enough!" The soldiers froze, their weapons lowering slightly as her power spread through the air. Her markings blazed like a star, her eyes glowing with pure light. She stood shakily, her hand raised, her body trembling but unbroken. "You call me traitor," she said, her voice echoing with power. "But I am still your princess. I am not a slave to law. I am not a weapon for tyrants. And I will not die in chains." The golden light grew so bright that the soldiers shielded their eyes. Even the commander staggered back, his blade flickering. Daniel crawled to his feet beside her, blood dripping down his face, his chest heaving with every breath. He stood shoulder to shoulder with her, though his legs trembled and his weapon was nearly gone. "Listen well," he shouted to the soldiers. "One human, one princess. We are not afraid of you." The chamber fell silent. For the first time, the soldiers hesitated. Some lowered their weapons completely, shame flickering in their eyes. The commander snarled, raising his blade again, but his soldiers no longer moved to follow. Daniel tightened his grip. He was ready to die here, but he would not die alone. He would die making history. But then the impossible happened. One by one, the soldiers stepped back. They dropped their weapons, their loyalty breaking under the weight of Amara's defiance and Daniel's courage. The commander roared in rage, swinging his blade, but no one followed him. He stood alone now. Daniel met his strike head-on, their blades clashing with sparks. With the last of his strength, Daniel twisted, driving the alien blade deep into the commander's chest. The armored figure let out a choked roar, staggering backward before collapsing into the shadows. Silence filled the chamber once more. Daniel stood swaying, his chest heaving, his body broken but unbowed. Amara leaned against him, her light dimming but steady. Around them, the soldiers lowered their heads, not in mockery but in respect. Amara's voice was soft, trembling with emotion. You changed them. You changed everything." Daniel looked at her, his lips cracked, his voice a whisper. "No, we changed everything. Together." The 2 of them stood in the ruins, human and princess, against the empire that had tried to break them. And from that night forward, the story of one man who caught a princess by accident became more than survival. It became legend. A story whispered across worlds. A reminder that courage could stand against empires and that sometimes One human's choice could change the fate of galaxies.